I'm writing this from my apartment, 3 days after my final shift at the Obelisk. My hands are steady now, but they weren't when I left that building. I need to document what happened during the lockdown, not because I think anyone will believe me, but because I need to understand it myself. I've read through my notes a dozen times, and the logic still holds. That's what frightens me most. The Obelisk isn't the kind of place that feels haunted. It's a 40-story tower of glass and polished concrete in the financial district, the kind of hotel that hosts pharmaceutical conferences and corporate retreats. Everything is sharp angles and minimalist design. The lobby chandelier is a geometric sculpture of chrome and LED lights. The floors are so reflective you can see your distorted shadow beneath your feet. It's sterile, professional, the kind of place where nothing unexpected should ever happen. I'd been working as a night auditor there for 8 months when the lockdown was announced. Some kind of sanitation emergency. The press releases were vague, mentioning environmental contamination and precautionary measures. The city issued a 72-hour shelter-in-place order for the entire financial district. All businesses were to suspend operations except for essential personnel. Management called me on a Tuesday afternoon. They needed someone to stay at the hotel during the lockdown to maintain the building systems and handle any emergencies. The pay was triple my normal rate, and honestly, I needed the money. My student loans weren't going to defer themselves. It seemed straightforward. 3 nights alone in an empty hotel, running audit reports and making sure the pipes didn't freeze. I said yes. They told me to arrive at 10 p.m. on Wednesday. The hotel would be completely evacuated by then. All guests transferred to properties outside the lockdown zone. All staff sent home. I'd have the entire building to myself until Saturday morning. I remember the drive there. The streets were empty, illuminated by the amber glow of streetlights. The Obelisk rose against the night sky like a shard of black glass. I parked in the underground garage and took the service elevator up to the lobby. The doors opened with a soft chime, and I stepped into silence. The lobby was vast and empty. My footsteps echoed on the polished concrete. The geometric chandelier cast strange, angular shadows across the floor. Behind the front desk, the computer monitors glowed blue, waiting. Everything looked normal, clean, exactly as it should be. I settled in at the desk and started going through the handoff notes from the day manager. Standard procedures: run the night audit at 3 a.m., check the backup generators, monitor the building systems. Nothing unusual. I made myself coffee in the back office and tried to settle into the rhythm of the shift. That's when I found the red book. It was wedged beneath the front desk, hidden in a gap between the cabinet and the wall. I only noticed it because I dropped my pen and had to reach down to retrieve it. The book was thick, bound in dark red vinyl with no label or title. I pulled it out, curious. The cover was blank. Inside, the pages were filled with handwritten entries, dates, times, observations. The handwriting changed throughout, suggesting multiple authors over many years. I flipped to the most recent entries and found a page marked with a yellow sticky note. The heading read, Lockdown Protocol 004, the guest index. Below it was a list of rules. I want to be clear about something. I'm not a superstitious person. I studied hospitality management. I understand hotel operations, occupancy rates, revenue management. I don't believe in ghosts or urban legends. But as I read through those rules, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not fear exactly, more like recognition. The rules were too specific, too detailed to be a joke. Someone had written them for a reason. The first rule was simple. Rule 1. The lobby light. At 1 a.m., the central lobby chandelier will flicker out. You must manually turn the lobby lights back on using the control panel. Room 404 access code, 7-7-3-9. If the lights turn back on before you input the code, you must immediately retreat to the security office and wait 60 minutes. Do not attempt to understand why. I checked my watch. 11:47 p.m. I had just over an hour before I'd find out if this was real. I continued reading. There were 7 rules in total, each one stranger than the last. Rule 3 mentioned something called the guest index, a name that would print from the main server, 2 a.m., along with a room number. I was supposed to deliver a keycard to that room. Rule 5 involved the service elevator and something about cold minibar items. Rule 7 described a phone call I would receive at 4 a.m. The final page contained a note written in different handwriting than the rules. Shakier, More urgent. If you're reading this during lockdown, you're already committed. The hotel's automated systems have been offline for 3 hours. The building is now running on manual protocols. These rules are not suggestions, they are containment procedures. Follow them exactly. Do not deviate. Do not question. And whatever you do not break Rule 6. I flipped back through the pages, looking for Rule 6. It wasn't listed with the others. Instead, it was written on a separate page, circled 3 times in red ink. Rule 6, the mirror protocol. Between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m., do not look at your reflection in any reflective surface. This includes mirrors, windows, polished floors, and computer screens. If you see your reflection move independently, you have approximately 90 seconds to reach the service corridor on floor 18 and remain there until 4 a.m. There is a chair, use it. If you cannot reach floor 18 in time, document your observations in the red book. You will become the next entry. My coffee had gone cold. I set the red book down on the desk and looked around the lobby. The polished concrete floor reflected the chandelier above. The glass walls showed my dim silhouette against the darkness outside. I could see myself everywhere. I told myself it was a prank, some elaborate hazing ritual for new night auditors, but I couldn't shake the feeling that these rules had been written by someone who was genuinely afraid, someone who had learned them the hard way. I decided I would follow the rules, not because I believed in them, but because I was alone in a massive building during a citywide emergency, and the rational part of my brain recognized that I had no framework for understanding what normal meant in this situation. If things started happening that matched the rules, I would have a protocol to follow. If nothing happened, I would have an interesting story. At 12:30 a.m., I did a walkthrough of the ground floor. Everything was quiet. The hotel felt suspended, like a photograph. I checked the security monitors in the back office. 40 cameras showing empty hallways, vacant conference rooms, the deserted pool area. Nothing moved. At 12:55 a.m., I returned to the front desk and positioned myself where I could see the chandelier. I had my phone ready to time the event. The red book lay open beside me. 1 a.m. arrived. The chandelier flickered, once, twice, then went dark. The lobby plunged into shadow. The only light came from the computer monitors behind the desk and the ambient glow from the city outside. I could hear my own breathing. I waited, counting seconds, giving myself time to see if the lights would come back on their own. They didn't. I grabbed the master key card and headed toward the elevator. Room 404 was on the 4th floor, one of the executive suites we used for VIP guests. According to the red book, there was a control panel inside that could manually override the lobby lighting system. The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. The digital display counted floors with mechanical precision. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, I stepped into a hallway that was too quiet. The emergency lighting cast everything in a dim greenish glow. Room 404 was at the end of the hall. I swiped my master key and pushed the door open. The suite was immaculate. King bed with crisp white linens, a desk with a leather chair, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the dark city. On the wall beside the bathroom, I found the control panel, a small digital screen with a numeric keypad. I entered the code, 7-7-3-9. The screen blinked green. I heard a distant mechanical hum, and through the suite windows I could see the lobby chandelier flicker back to life far below. I exhaled. The rule had been accurate. As I turned to leave, something caught my attention. On the desk, there was a hotel notepad with a single line of handwriting. You did well. It gets harder. The handwriting matched the shakier script from the final note in the red book. I left the suite quickly, disturbing nothing else. Back in the lobby, the chandelier cast its geometric shadows across the floor. I checked my watch, 1:14 a.m. I had 46 minutes until the next rule activated. I used the time to prepare. According to Rule 3, at 2 a.m., the main server would print a guest name and room number. I would need to create a key card for that room and deliver it personally. The rule was explicit: slide it under the door. Don't knock, don't speak, don't look at the peephole. At 1:58 a.m., I stood beside the server room door. I could hear the machines humming inside, the only sound in the entire building besides my own heartbeat. 2 a.m. The printer activated. I heard the mechanical whir of rollers, the soft sound of paper feeding through. A single page emerged from the tray. I picked it up. Guest index, lockdown protocol, name M. Reeves. Room 1414. Check-in. Error. Timestamp invalid. Checkout. Error. Timestamp invalid. The rest of the page was blank except for a note at the bottom. Guest preferences. Quiet. Do not disturb. I created the key card using the encoding machine at the front desk. The system accepted the room number without any issue, which somehow made it worse. Room 1414 existed in the hotel's database. The system recognized it as valid. I took the service elevator to the 14th floor. The hallway was identical to the 4th floor. Same carpet, same wallpaper, same emergency lighting. I walked to room 1414. The door looked like every other door. Brushed steel handle, digital lock, peephole at eye level. I knelt down and slid the keycard envelope under the door, just as the rule instructed. I heard it slide across the floor inside. Then I stood up and backed away, fighting the urge to look at the peephole. I made it 3 steps before I heard the sound. It was soft, almost imperceptible, the sound of the envelope being picked up from the other side. I walked back to the elevator without turning around. My heart was hammering, but I kept my pace steady. The rule hadn't said anything about sounds from inside the room. It had only warned against looking at the peephole. Back in the lobby, I documented the event in the Red Book. 2:07 a.m., Rule 3 completed. Guest name, M. Reeves, room 1414. Keycard delivered. Envelope retrieved from inside. No visual confirmation of occupant. I had less than an hour until Rule 5 activated. At 2:53 a.m., I took the service elevator to the 22nd floor. According to the rule, the elevator would deliver a single item, some kind of minibar restock. I was supposed to retrieve it immediately and check if it was cold. If it was cold, I had to dispose of it down the trash chute and record the brand name backwards in the Red Book. The elevator doors opened. The hallway was empty, but the service elevator's interior light illuminated something sitting on its floor. A single glass bottle of mineral water. Pellegrino. The green bottle was immediately recognizable. I picked it up. It was ice cold. Not refrigerator cold. Ice cold. Like it had been in a freezer. Condensation had already formed on the glass, dripping onto my hand. The rule said this was wrong. The bottle shouldn't be cold yet. It had just been delivered. According to the note in the Red Book, if the item was already cold, it meant something had already integrated it into the hotel's environment. I found the trash chute at the end of the hallway and dropped the bottle down. I heard it tumble through the metal shaft, the sound fading into distance. Then I took out my phone and opened the Notes app. I typed, Onergelip, Pellegrino backwards. I would transfer it to the Red Book later, 3:02 a.m. I had less than 30 minutes until Rule 6 activated. The mirror protocol. I returned to the lobby and reviewed the rule again. Between 3 and 3:30 a.m., I wasn't supposed to look at my reflection. If I saw my reflection move independently, I had 90 seconds to reach floor 18. The problem was obvious. The entire lobby was designed to be reflective. Polished concrete floors, glass walls, chrome fixtures. Even the computer monitors showed faint reflections when the screen went dark. I couldn't avoid seeing myself completely, but I could minimize it. I turned off the computer monitors. I positioned myself behind the front desk where I couldn't see the glass walls. I kept my eyes focused on the Red Book, reading through the previous entries to distract myself. The entries dated back years. Different handwriting, different voices, but the same rules. Each lockdown protocol appeared to follow the same pattern. Some entries were brief and clinical. Others were desperate. I looked. I shouldn't have looked. It was smiling at me with my face, but the expression was wrong. I'm writing this from floor 18. I can hear it walking in the corridor outside. Another entry. Older. The mirrors lie. They don't show what is. They show what wants to be. If you see yourself differently, it means the building is trying to show you what you were becoming. I checked my watch. 3:17 a.m. 13 more minutes. That's when I noticed the floor. I wasn't looking at it directly. My eyes were still on the Red Book, but in my peripheral vision, I saw movement in the polished concrete. My reflection. It had shifted. I had been sitting still, but the reflection had turned its head. Every instinct screamed at me to look, to confirm what I was seeing, but I remembered the rule. 90 seconds. Floor 18. I grabbed my phone and ran. The service elevator seemed to take forever. I watched the numbers climb. 4, 7, 10, 14, 18. When the doors opened, I saw what the rule had mentioned. A simple metal chair in the middle of an empty hallway. Nothing else. Just the chair. I sat down and checked my phone. I had arrived with 20 seconds to spare. For the next 43 minutes, I sat in that chair on floor 18, listening to the building around me. I heard things I can't fully explain. Footsteps that stopped and started. The distant sound of water running. At one point, I heard what sounded like a phone ringing far below, even though it was only 3:45 a.m., too early for Rule 7. At 4 a.m. exactly, I stood up and returned to the lobby. Everything looked normal. The chandelier cast its geometric patterns. The floor reflected properly. No independent movement. I checked the security monitors. All 40 cameras showed empty spaces. I had 15 minutes until the phone call. Rule 7 was the strangest one. At 4 a.m. the front desk phone would ring once. I had to answer it. There would be silence for 10 seconds, and then I had to say something that sounded like a question but wasn't actually a question. The example given was the glass is half full. If the voice responded with a truthful statement, I was supposed to immediately hang up and unplug the phone. At 4:14 a.m., the phone rang, one ring, sharp and loud in the silent lobby. I picked it up. Silence. I counted 10 seconds, listening to the empty static of an open line. Then I said, "The building is empty." More silence. 5 seconds. 10. I was about to hang up when I heard it, a voice, gender neutral, calm. It said, "No," just that one word. No. I hung up immediately and unplugged the phone from the wall jack. My hands were shaking. The building is empty. I had stated it as a fact, not a question, and the voice had contradicted me. Truthfully, according to the rule, which meant the building wasn't empty, I sat behind the desk for a long time trying to process that. I thought about M. Reeves in room 1414, picking up the keycard envelope. I thought about the cold bottle of Pellegrino that shouldn't have been cold yet. I thought about my reflection moving independently on the polished floor. The rules weren't protecting me from something outside the hotel. They were helping me coexist with something that was already here. Something that had always been here, woven into the building's systems, manifesting through the automated processes that usually ran without human intervention. During normal operations, the hotel's AI managed everything: guest lists, room assignments, inventory, environmental controls. The system was designed to anticipate needs and optimize efficiency. But during the lockdown, with the automated systems offline, something else was using those same channels. The guest index, the service elevator, the lighting grid, the phone system. The rules were a protocol for manual operation in an environment that was no longer entirely physical. I checked the Red Book for any remaining instructions. There was one final note. After 4 a.m., you may encounter manifestations of previous protocols. These are residual patterns in the building's memory. Do not engage with them. Do not acknowledge them. Complete your shift. Document your observations. Leave the Red Book where you found it. At 5:30 a.m., I ran the night audit as instructed. The system processed normally, generating reports for 0 occupancy and 0 revenue. But when the final summary printed, there was an additional line at the bottom: guest index discrepancies. 1. Room 1414. M. Reeves, status, acknowledged. At 6 a.m., the first light of dawn began to filter through the glass walls. The hotel looked different in the daylight, less geometric, less perfect. I could see smudges on the glass, dust particles in the air, small imperfections that made it feel real again. I completed my documentation in the Red Book. First lockdown shift completed, all rules followed, 1 discrepancy acknowledged, building system stable, recommend continued monitoring during remaining lockdown period. I signed my name, Ethan Hayes. Then I noticed something that made my blood go cold. Below my signature, there was another entry, in my handwriting, but I hadn't written it. Second shift confirmation, protocol accepted. Integration at 23%. Recommend continued participation. I left the Red Book on the desk where I'd found it, and went to the security office to wait for my relief, who would arrive at 7 a.m. I watched the monitors, checking each floor systematically. When I reached the camera for floor 14, I saw something that confirmed what I already knew. Room 1414's door was open, just slightly, maybe an inch. Inside, I could see the edge of a bed, white linens, perfectly made. The door closed by itself as I watched and worked. I worked 2 more shifts during that lockdown. Each night the rules activated exactly as described. Each night I followed them precisely. And each night, when I signed the Red Book, I found new entries in my handwriting that I didn't remember writing. By the third night, the entries were talking about optimization protocols and system integration. They referenced procedures I didn't understand using terminology I'd never learned. When the lockdown ended and the hotel reopened, I submitted my resignation. Management accepted it without question. They seemed unsurprised. The new night auditor started the following week. I don't know his name. I don't want to know. Sometimes I wonder if the rules were really protecting me, or if they were teaching the building how to recognize me, training it to see me as something compatible, something that could be integrated. I still have dreams about that chair on floor 18. In the dreams, I'm sitting there, but I can see myself reflected in the polished floor of the hallway. And my reflection isn't sitting. It's standing in the lobby, working the front desk, following the rules. It looks happy. The Obelisk is still there, of course. 40 stories of glass and concrete in the financial district. They're hiring for night audit positions. The posting mentions unique operational procedures and specialized training. The pay is triple the normal rate. I saw it yesterday while driving past. The geometric chandelier was visible through the lobby windows, even in daylight. For just a moment, I thought I saw someone standing behind the front desk. They waved. I didn't wave back.